said goodbye to me. I looked in the mirror, then I began to cry.
Hi, I'm Hannah Strong, and I'm here with Renate Reinsve, the star of The Worst Person in the World. And we're going to have a little chat about your wonderful film.
Yes.
So my first question is, what film kind of made you want to be an actor, if there's just a single one?
Yeah, because I wasn't exposed to film and art until very late. So because I come from this really, really small place where you don't have anything. So when I moved to the city next to that little place, the first thing I saw was lunch, and that was like mind blowing. Like coming from, it was kind of the same creepy vibe from where I was from, so I could recognize. But I was so curious about like how he managed to capture that feeling and that emotion through something that seemed very like absurd and didn't have like a rational I don't know it wasn't rationally put together, you know, like the way I saw it back then. But I was very young, and then I moved on to see Pasolini, Salù, which I never should have done, like at age 14. It was
That's very intense.
Yeah. And
14.
then I was a bit scared of movies after that. And no, I moved, you know, I loved like staying in that very dark film sphere. And I don't remember exactly which performance before I saw Charlotte Gainsborough but that was later, because I saw Isabelle Huppert in The Piano Teacher, and that was I couldn't understand how she did it and how that was possible. So I guess but for me acting was more about like a place. I did children's theater, and it was a place to understand like human relationships and why we did the things we did to each other, and like create a community and be someone else, but also like explore who I was and who other people in my family was or my friends were through that. So but I because Charlotte Gainsborough and Isabelle Huppert was like, that was later in my life.
But it's like, like you say, it's a way to process human emotions and what's going on in your life, which I think is very true to the film as well. It's a big acting showcase, but it's about very core human emotions a lot of the time. It is. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. And I haven't been actually comfortable with doing that. I'd done so many roles that was not in contact with themselves, and had like a big struggle of just being who they were. And Julie has that too in the start of the movie. She doesn't really like herself, and she struggles to accept who she is and the choices that she makes. And then you see her through the film like actually being confronted with herself and having no choice of escaping herself and her feelings. And through that she learns to, you know, rest in herself, be at peace, and accept herself, and even like herself a little bit.
So knowing that Joachim wrote the part with you in mind, what was your reaction when you read the script for the first time?
I was so nervous because I was curious about what he had seen in me. And when I read the script, I felt I was seen, but I felt so many people were seen. I felt it was so universal. It wasn't just about me. I was scared of not having, you know, feeling that contact with the character. But I really did. Like before page 7, I had cried 3 times. And I don't cry really that much. But it was a different start in the script. It was the scene where she walks down from, like she looks over the city and she realizes suddenly and gets surprised that she's so sad, like looking down on where she lives. She gets suddenly very, in a brief moment, very existential about where she is in life. And then she gets really sad, and she goes into this wedding and flirts with a guy, and being a little bit self-destructive, but having her, like, creating her own fun. And I I love that. How do you say, like, arc of that character just in the start, and then Joachim changed it all around in the editing. But that was my first meeting with her, and I loved her.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the reception over the past 6 months since Cannes, everyone has fallen a little bit in love with Julie and with all the characters in the film. I think it's such a rarity with romantic kind of comedy dramas that every single character you're like, I love all of them. You know, there's usually a villain, and there's no villain in this film, which I think is really interesting. You understand where everyone's coming from, and it makes it a lot richer as an audience member than you're thinking.
Yeah, it is. It's really rare. But because Eskil and Joachim, who wrote the script together, they also start out from a character or the characters. So they don't start off with the plot or where the story goes. So they try to create a multi-dimensional person. So it's really liberating to see, like, you can, I felt really liberating with working with this, because, you know, she gets to be likable and unlikable, and it's really hard to know who they are, because they are so complicated people that are both really beautiful and ugly and weird and make bad choices too. So some very bad choices, but some great choices as well. And Joachim, of course, you first worked together 10 years ago now, and with quite a small part in Oso 31st of August. So returning all that time later, how did it feel for you to be working on kind of this big project after so long? Yeah, because I worked on that. I only had one line, and that was my first experience working on a movie ever. I was still in like a theater school or acting school. So I remember being on set, and it didn't feel, I couldn't compare it to anything, but it didn't feel like work. I was, you know, everyone was very ambitious of making it, but it felt like a big group of friends having fun and playing around with some, you know, existential material. But I was in another movie after that, also a little bigger, but a small role still. I'm not allowed to say small, am I? Because like no roles are small, but yeah, parts, yeah. But now I've said it anyway. But and then I felt so alone, and I didn't meet the actors before I was on set, and it was more like the culture on set was more everyone for themselves. And Joachim has this, he loves the collectiveness, and he understands that it can't be, the film is only as good as everyone working together and trying to create those events and those moments together. So like, I think every single project I worked on ever since, I felt quite, not every time, but quite alone, and not also, like we talked about, like this script is also goes so deep into character, and then you can go much further into your work. You can go forever in creating detail and layers, emotional layers. But in a lot of plot-driven scripts, you're kind of a function, and it's just so far you can go with that. So I was really, really happy to get back to Joachim's world, because no one works like that. So
no, and across especially the Oso trilogy, the characters are so vibrant. What happens to them is almost incidental, because you're just so in love with watching them. And
what's incidental?
Incidental doesn't matter so much, because you're so wrapped up in the characters. Yeah,
and also like I heard someone say, like, I don't remember who it was now, but and probably more directors say this, but like, it's in the small events that are big, the big things in life happen. You don't realize until 10 years later that was the moment that changed my life.
This is what I really liked about the film. There's something, now this is a good word, banality.
Banality.
The idea that something very kind of trivial or boring can affect your life in the most meaningful way, such as crashing a wedding or walking into a bookstore, and you never kind of know where that's going to come from. And I think having a film that really elevates those moments is really beautiful and allows people to kind of think about their lives and think, oh wait, that chance meeting has kind of changed the whole trajectory of my life.
It gives a lot of hope.
We need hope at the moment.
Yeah, we do.
We have to discuss your wonderful scene partners, of course. Anders and Herbert, who are just, it really, as a little trio, it is just kind of so fun to watch you guys. How much kind of planning did you guys get to do together and talk about your characters, that kind of thing?
We got to do quite a lot, but I remember Anders, who plays Axel, and me talked about very early that it's really hard to see exactly who these people are because they're so complex, and you it's hard to decide on anything. So we thought like it's gonna depend very much on the dynamic between us and how they relate to each other. So we really started working quite early on like building trust, and we had this game that he had done with actors in Joachim's films before, where we told each other what we were most, or showed each other what we were most shameful of. So I took him to my hometown and showed
so
it.
Intense.
Yeah, it's very intense, but it got us really close. And but he is also like so extremely good. So he goes really, really deep into like he like, how do you say, like
immersive.
Yeah, he's so deep into what the scene is about and all the layers and the complexity of the scene. So it was really, and also Joachim didn't make us take any responsibility for the character or the scene. So we had a lot of preparation and we built it together and we talked a lot about all the themes, but when we were there, it was about letting go of everything and like lose control, and that's scary, but we felt so safe with each other. And Herbert, I knew him from before, and we just have this virtue in the school that we went to together. That the scene is never as good as the worst actor the worst element in the scene. So we would like try to like make each other better, so he still feels that he was acting better off camera. No, he's really generous and gives so much, like because you are allowed to like rest a little bit and not give everything when the camera is not on your face, but he is giving it all every single take to give the other actor as much as possible. So I could go on and on about them. They are great people and really great actors.
I mean, it comes through. So I mean, Anders, I think everyone kind of knows now. And especially this year, you know, between West Person and Bergman Island, he's having a great year.
Yeah, and he plays like the hunk.
And in this one, it's like still a hunk, always a hunk, but
of course.
in a very different mode as well.
Yeah.
He's got the range. He's wonderful.
He does. Yeah, he is.
And I mean, what a revelation for the world Herbert is as well. He's just such a sweetheart in the film as well. You're really,
and it's a hard role to play because he doesn't have much words. He's Ivan is struggling to put things into word. He's more in his body, so it's to convey all that he did and work on that relationship with Ivan and Julie he just did a really, really good job.
The iconic scene in the film there's many iconic scenes, but the kind of one that I think has particularly got a lot of attention is the wonderful sequence where time kind of stops and you run to each other. How was that to shoot? Because there's a lot of running for you.
It's a lot of running. Yeah, it's a lot of running. But shooting, I didn't get to exercise like next to it because I was working so much. So it was great. No, it was challenging because it was very technical, and the apparatus around it was because it's no special effects. So there was people actually standing in the street, and we blocked off like half the city. With the help of the police, and then we had to run into the street with the car and the bicycle and everything, and everyone stood still on the spot, and they had rehearsed somewhere else, but they knew what to do, and then I had to run through it, and we could do it twice, and then the traffic had to start again. So it was really challenging, but you could feel like not doing it with special effects. I guess that would be totally different, because it feels so real when you see it, and when I was in it, of course I felt it was, I felt the magic running through like the big scenery with people totally still.
Real people standing totally still.
But there are 2 little girls right when she gets out of Axel's apartment and runs down, and they, like, it's a big crane shot, and Joachim's just said this, that he could, like, in his monitor, he could see one of the girls being, like, moving a little bit, but he was like, let's use it, because he wanted, like, the realness of it, like the air in the hair and the girls, like, moving a little bit.
That's kids for you, you can't predict it.
No.
I like that. I feel like that's a little Easter egg for people listening to this. They can now go and watch the film and be like,
and see the little hands.
There's the small child.
Yeah.
We've talked a little about the kind of emotional breadth of the film, and there's so many times that it requires you to kind of switch mode very quickly and go from kind of being really upbeat to kind of very sad the next moment. I think the scene you mentioned earlier with Julia at the party is such a good example of that, because it's meant to be a really sort of lovely occasion and celebrating her boyfriend, and she just realises that she's so miserable. How do you kind of find the personal space, I guess, to make those switches within a day as an actor?
I think it's about the preparation. So I was, even though she's like having fun, and you can't just do that without knowing it's because she's working on getting away from her sadness. So it's a fight inside her. So I guess it's about like making it as detailed as you can. So then you can switch really fast, because you know all the, like, her thoughts and her body and her subconscious, because I have to know like where she is, but she doesn't know yet, So I think, and also it's partly that, and it's partly that we put on, or Joachim puts on music on set, and we dance, and we have so much fun, and then if he gives us space, like he's so respectful of that space. He really, really understands that it's really hard to get to those places, and is very generous with time. Because he has said also that maybe you're going to interview him too, but that he wanted to invest in time with the actors and music, and what's the last thing? Do you remember? Do you remember it from the Q&A? Music and shooting on 35. Yeah.
3 great things to invest in as a director. That's the dream, right?
Yeah. So he gives us, even though it's shot on film and you can hear the film rolling in the camera, and it's expensive, it's expensive. He like gives it time, so we actually get to go places, and we feel that that he has respect for it, so we're never ashamed of like taking that place, because you have to do that to get to those places.
Yeah, to get those results, you have to put in the time and have the space as an actor to be able to get through it.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your wonderful answers. I love the film, and I'm sure everyone watching will also love the film.